interview is being conducted on Gadigal and Wurundjeri land. We acknowledge the traditional custodians and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. Al and I go by the pronouns she, her, and Claude goes by the pronouns he, him. And we are so excited to announce Claude Jabbour as one of the 2021 CGA Rising Stars.
Yay!
Thank you for joining us.
And congratulations.
Thank you so much. It was a really nice thing to hear. And really appreciate it.
Well, you're in Melbourne, so it must have been a really nice, little treat, cherry on the sundae, getting this during lockdown.
Absolutely. It definitely made lockdown a little bit more palatable. It was nice. And I was forgetting that I was a performer and an actor just sitting in the house all day. So it's a nice little reminder.
Yeah.
So good.
So great.
So let's start by, can you tell us a little bit about your journey into acting and where did it start for you?
Yeah. I think always from when I was really young, performing was just in my blood. I was like obsessed with impersonating relatives, and I was good with accents. And so I was always entertaining family and friends by impersonating like my auntie or uncle or whatever. And so it was just in me, but I didn't really know how to pursue it professionally for a long time. I went to a school that didn't necessarily have a drama program or anything. We did, bits and pieces, and I was always involved. But even all the way up till year 12, did all the musicals, all of the school plays, but didn't envisage it as a professional career. There was nobody in my community that, my big family, Lebanese community, like hundreds of cousins, and nobody had done that before. It wasn't something that I could easily envisage as a professional career. And I just think it took me a while to have the conviction to really go for it. When I was about 24, 25, and I tried a few other things, including like a corporate job. And that was probably a good exercise because it made me realize I was much more cut out for this. Yeah, no matter how hard it was, to be an actor, I was like, I'm probably better off there. So I went for it then, and I haven't looked back since.
Yeah, interesting. So you say you didn't have anyone around you growing up that you could kind of look up to, I guess, and aspire to be an actor. So who did you look to when you were finding that courage to take the steps? Who did you aspire to?
I guess in terms of like my vision of what I always wanted to do was like Full Frontal, Fast Forward. I don't know if you guys know those shows from however long ago it was. I don't even know now. But Eric Bana, Julia Morris, those comedy sketch shows, I used to stay up and watch those when my parents would let me, and I would just dream about being on those shows. And so I aspired, basically just Eric Bana was like the perfect, hero for me to look up to. And I even got to the point where in school assembly, because I didn't have many opportunities to perform, I would negotiate with the teachers in year 10, 11 and 12 to give me like 10, 15 minutes at the end of assembly. And I would put on sketch shows in front of the whole school. In the last 10 or 15 minutes, it was an ongoing thing. And so, that was always something that I wanted to do. And that was what I was modeling my work on,
Oh my God, amazing. So that's so interesting. But also your latest credits, so like Eden and Stateless, are super different to your sketch past then. So how has this evolved for you, going from sketch comedy, which you obviously still love, but to some pretty dark characters or roles?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, in terms of the work that I do myself and that I can I do some writing and stuff, it's always in comedy. I feel very at ease there. But then in terms of my career, most of the work that I started to get and the auditions I started to get were all dramatic characters. So really not much in comedy whatsoever, which I was okay with. I mean, I love to do a bit of everything. And I obviously love to play characters and characters that are far away from me personally. So I embrace that. I love the fact that, you know, my career started to look like, oh, the professional work was drama. And I always felt, okay, well, I've got the comedy. That's kind of what I feel most, you know, comfortable in. But I really do believe, you know, that, you know, you can do both. And I enjoy that and embrace that. So with Stateless, that was, a character that was very, very different from the character in Eden. And I hope that keeps happening. I hope that I keep jumping all over the place, because that's kind of the career that I want.
Interesting. So good. Yeah, it's great to have that that plethora of diverse roles, you know, that you're able to.
It's fun.
Yeah. Also, I think many comedic actors with comedic backgrounds are brilliant at drama. So there is a theme in that, you know.
Yeah, I think so. I think you can do both if you know, you do look. I always look at comedy. It's the biggest tragedy, and you know, all the characters. All the characters that I come
so vulnerable though. You have to be so vulnerable to do comedy. So I think that is what makes great dramatic actors. Yeah. Amazing.
Cool. So you've worked with some pretty iconic Australian directors and women nonetheless. Can you tell us about your experience with some of them, like Emma Freeman, Mira Fawkes? Like, you've worked with some of the best, Shannon Murphy,
Yeah, I've been extremely lucky, actually. And, you know, there is something that those three directors in particular had in common, and that was just the way that the environment that they created on set, which, you know, kind of made a lot of the times I was doing supporting roles, but I always felt a big part of it, and always heard and listened to. And I just recall, you know, with Shannon, which was one of my first serious roles on SBS, On the Ropes, and she just she made me feel like we were kind of both learning on the job, but it wasn't the case, you know. And she really, you know, there were moments where we had, you know, issues with a particular scene, and she could see that I was struggling a bit, and she just kind of stopped everything and asked me what I was thinking, and I kind of made a suggestion, and we tried it, and I could just hear her in the background going, "Yep, that was it. That was it." And just a little thing like that, which I look back on, and I think, you know, there were other ways that she could have dealt with that, but it was very skillful in the sense that it made me feel very confident and opened up that part of my, you know, my abilities as an actor to feel like that I can contribute. And then every scene after that, you know, I felt very comfortable in offering things. And that was a great starting point. And then with Emma, you know, her style was just, you know, she was very laid back in her approach, but it was so controlled. It was, you know, very, she had everything covered, but she just projected this calm. And the same with Mira. You know, Mira was a lot of fun, and I think it was just those three directors, to have worked with them. I have a really, I think I've been extremely lucky to have those three, and the environments that I've worked in have just been great.
So nice, amazing. Yeah, it's a good training ground for, you know,
your big things,
for your first big roles.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So have you got a current goal or ideal role in mind?
I mean, I wouldn't, and I get asked this question a lot, actually, especially by friends that are not, you know,
your mum and dad.
Yeah, my mum and dad. I am, look, I wanted a career always that is just going to take me around the world, you know, completely different mediums, musical theatre, you know, all of that sort of stuff. And so I never really think in terms of which role that I would, you know, dream of playing. I probably should have a better answer to that. But I like to keep myself guessing. But
that's a good answer.
Yeah, I like to keep myself guessing. Absolutely. I like to go, why did this come through to me? And, you know, I always see that as a challenge. I think for me, I like to be surprised about where I'm heading, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the best. I mean, I think that's the best approach to
Everything.
to not it allows you not to pigeonhole yourself.
Yeah.
You know, it's limiting in a way.
Yeah. So there's obviously grad season coming up. What would you suggest is your advice to your younger self, which may apply to some grads as well?
Yeah, I think a couple of things for me was just like take that first step. There's a lot of anxiety, even with, just generally with VCE. I always think, we put so much pressure on ourselves, and sometimes the belief is like that it's over after that. If you don't get the right score, if you stuff up the audition to NIDA or wherever, then it's all over. And I certainly had that perception. And I had the perception at 16 that it was too late for me, that it was over. Because I was watching, I think, Leonardo DiCaprio on What's Eating Gilbert Grape. I was like, he's 16, he's 17, he's already in the movie. By the time I audition and get it, it would have been 19. It's going to be too late. And I think in my experience, I've got there in a really roundabout way that I didn't expect. I thought it was too late when I was 16 and I didn't get my first real, roles until I was 30. And I didn't go to NIDA and I didn't go to VCA or any of those schools. And so that's what I would tell my younger self is there's no particular way to get there. And it's never over. And if it's something that you want to do, own it and call yourself an actor. And as long as you're creating and you're working on it, then you're an actor. Don't wait until, somebody gives you a job or whatever until you own it. I think, get creating and create however you can and own it.
That's so nice.
Yeah, that's great. That's really good advice because, a lot of actors, I think.
It's self-deprecating.
But also just the creating your own content is really good advice, I think, because you can really be in control of that as an actor in terms of taking the reins to your career, I guess. And getting things started in taking that first step. So really good.
Definitely.
What changes to the industry have you seen over the course of your career, and are there any other changes you would like to see happen in the future?
It's been hard for me because I kind of got into the industry quite late. And so I imagine in the time that, if I had been there from when I was 18 to 30, I'm sure it'd be vastly different. But I think for me, what's been clear has been there's more of an accessibility, a wider range of ways to get there. I think there is, in the past, it felt like there was just like the network TV jobs and that was it. And these 3 or 4 theaters, and that was the industry. Now the industry is kind of all over the place. There are people who are making their own content outside of any of the old streaming platforms that are making, they have a sustainable way of creating content that have a huge audience. So I think that has changed a lot, even in the time that I've been kind of working in the industry. And then in terms of changing anything, for me, I've just always had like a passion to create some sort of pathway for, people, my background, people like myself who, come from maybe like their family came here, in the 50s or later, and, see themselves as Aussies and just for whatever reason didn't find it accessible. My parents have a love of theatre and they watch their old TV channels from their old country. They don't necessarily go to the theatre as much or get involved in Australian film as much, and partly because some of their stories, which I would consider Australian stories as well, stories of how they came here in the 50s and stuff, there's not so many of those on TV or in theatre. And so I'd love to create a pathway to create more of that content, but also give people like my younger self just an easier way to visualize their place in the industry. I think it's really important. I sometimes thought that the representation stuff, it sounded really wonderful, but I didn't understand it tangibly until I experienced in my own life. All of a sudden, once I started to get some traction in the industry, my auntie was like, suddenly going to auditions. She thought she could become an actress, and all of these people that I thought, oh, there's no actors and there's no writers and there's no painters and there's none of these people in our community. And everyone just started to pop out of the woodwork, and people would come to me and ask, my daughter wants to become a musician or she wants to be an actress. What do we do? It just like,
I love that.
was such a tangible effect. And I realized, wow, like there's a lot of people there that have probably generation after generation suppressed that impulse. And it doesn't take much, you know, to bring it all out. So I've seen the power of that, and I want to do something to bring it out.
Oh, how amazing. I kind of just got shivers because you like had the courage and the and, you know, to be so brave and do that and take that step for yourself. And now that's empowering other people to do that. I love that.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Proud of that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, and congratulations again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.